What we're going to do tonight is talk about how Hamilton evolved. It didn't just all of a sudden one day happen. It happened over a number of years, and we're going to kind of look at the history of how that happened and what it really meant. And then I'm going to tell you, when we're all done, how much money Lin-Manuel Miranda is making out of this, because it's pretty staggering. But this is a guy that really has understood his roots. He understood where he's come from, and he's put a lot of investment in it. So that we can do this, I have to share my screen and go through a couple mechanics here. And we're going to get there. So just bear with me as we do that. And here we go. Now I'm going to just do one other thing that I have to do to make sure that we can all be in the same place. And here we go with that. And let me scoot back up all the way to the beginning. Hamilton, one of the things I tell everybody all the time is Hamilton is the phenomenon of the day. It's not the first time a musical has been like this, except that it has captured everybody's imagination because it's done something that's a little different. It wasn't written for most of us who are appearing on this Zoom. It was written with a younger generation in mind to tell them a story that is somewhat modeled, if you want to picture this. Picture the ballet in The King and I, where Jerome Robbins choreographed a story of Uncle Tom's Cabin with people who were of Thai origin telling the story. Hamilton is somewhat in that mode. And Shelley, I'm assuming you're going to let the people in. I keep getting admits on my screen, but if you can do that, that's great.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let's talk about who this guy is. He grew up in Inwood in Manhattan. He was born in 1980. If you're not sure where Inwood is, picture the George Washington Bridge, head 10 blocks north, and it's the northern tip of Manhattan above Washington Heights. That used to be a German Jewish neighborhood, and a lot of people who came to New York during the 1930s fleeing the Nazis settled there. His father and mother were not exactly impoverished immigrants. They both had professional jobs, and he went to Wesleyan College. Now, when he was in high school, they sent him to a special school because he was so quick that he couldn't attend public schools. They needed to do something with him. And when he got to the special school that he went to, he had to figure out what he was good at. Everybody seemed to be good at something, and he had to figure out what his thing was, and it was rhyme. When he graduated from Wesleyan College, and we'll talk about this a little further in a minute, he was a substitute teacher because he needed to have a job that could provide him money and at the same time work on what his ultimate goal was to write and create craft. So in the Heights, going back to 1999, he's at Wesleyan College, and it really helps if you have a roommate who's the son of a famous author, and this friend is Norman Mailer's son. And he wrote a 90-minute review of life in the Heights. And in the Heights is Washington Heights, an area that's mostly populated by people who have moved to Manhattan from the islands, the Dominicans, the Haitians, the Puerto Ricans. And what had been, 50 years ago or 60 years ago, a very Jewish neighborhood, shifted to this demographic. I'm going to show you a couple of clips. I think it's to understand where Hamilton comes from, you have to watch some things from In the Heights. And In the Heights demonstrates, just if you listen, you can see where Hamilton is going to come from.
Every time I do another project, it's like, it's my chance to try and get it perfect, These people are here for us.
As artists, I think we're perfectionists, and we could drive ourselves to the ground, through the ground, and out the other side.
And I now have 15 minutes to get ready.
After today, nothing's gonna be the same.
Dreams come true, bitches!
Don't embarrass me. There sometimes are those moments when you realize this is it.
For the top of the show, places, please. We will start in 4 minutes.
There is so much of each of us in this show.
This time is is what God gives us to do. This is what we do for a living, because God lets us do this. Here we go.
Do it.
Stand by, guys. We're doing the real deal.
Amazing.
Yo, that's my wall!
You know when you're little and you're on a plane and you go by the clouds and they look so damn touchable and edible and you want to just touch those clouds and sort of see if you could sit in one. I always had that fantasy whenever I would fly to Puerto Rico. I feel like I've pulled a cloud out of the sky and I get to sit in it.
If I win the lottery, you'll never see me again.
Damn, we only joking. Stay broke then.
I'll be downtown. I'll get a nice studio. I'll get out of the barrio.
For real though, imagine how it would feel going real slow down the highway of life with no regrets and no breaking your neck for respect or a paycheck. For real though, we take a break from the down as you reach road. Go ahead, create a set that goes everybody on the list as you pursue them. With the 96 and the West Side. It's real though, imagine how we had to get over this war. Down the highway of life with no regrets. And no breaking your neck for respect or a paycheck. We take a break from the down. Like party, everybody on the list as you pursue them. And with those weekend where we can breathe, take it easy. We can pay off the debts we owe.
We can tell everyone we know.
Could get on a plane and go. We're screaming it dough, no tiptoeing. We'll get the dough, and once we get going, we're never gonna stop tiptoeing. We'll get the dough, and once we get going, we're never gonna. 96,000, get the dough, and 96,000, once we get going. 96,000, we'll get the dough, and once we get going, we're never gonna stop.
I've worked for 7 years to get here. So I'm gonna enjoy this as much as I can. And then the show will close or something will happen and I'll go. It's not every day that you write a part for yourself and people say, yeah, that's great, do it. So I'm trying to just enjoy that as much as I can. speaking slowly. I don't ever want to forget this moment as long as I live.
Now, just to kind of give you a sense, the guy on the right in the suit and tie, that's Thomas Kroll. He's the director. There was a gentleman, an actor, who was wearing a shirt and tie during a lot of the performance. He goes on to become George Washington, by the way, as Hamilton evolves. And many of the people who were in the Heights worked with Lin-Manuel Miranda. Now, this is the Tony Awards of that year. Now, it opened at the Public Theater. It was worked on, as he said, for 7 years. He had no expectation or anticipation of what this would become. And it's important to understand, he thought he would do a lot more, but he had no idea. And he has not even yet thought of writing Hamilton yet.
This is the incredible, talented Lin-Manuel Miranda. Creator and star of our next nominee for Best Musical. Baby, just do your thing. Do it in the Heights. Do your thing.
Okay, got it.
Lights up on Washington Heights, up at the dawning. I wipe down the awning. Hey y'all, good morning. I am snobby. You probably never heard my name. Reports of my fame are greatly exaggerated, exacerbated by the fact that my syntax is highly complicated, cause I immigrated from the single greatest little place in the Caribbean, Dominican Republic. I love it. Jesus, I'm jealous of it. And beyond that, ever since my folks passed on, I haven't gone back. Oh man, I gotta get on that. Me and my cousin running, just another dime a dozen. Mom and pop stop and shop. And oh my God, it's gotten too darn hot. Like my man Cole Porter said, people come through for a few cold waters, and the lottery ticket just a part of the routine. Everybody's got a job, everybody's got a dream.
Yo, cuz, look, the lotto numbers.
Take 5 lotto. We sold a winner?
Yo, what's the payout?
96,000. 96,000. 96,000.
No me digas.
96,000.
Yo, if I won the lotto tomorrow, well, I know I wouldn't bother going on no spending spree. I'll pick a business school and pay the entrance fee. Then maybe, if you're lucky, you'll stay friends with me. I'll be a businessman, richer than Nina's daddy. Donald Trump and I own the links, and he's my caddy. My money's making money. I'm going from toe to moto. Keep the bling. I want the brass ring like Frodo.
Oh no, here goes Mr. Braggadocio. Next thing you know, you're lying like Pinocchio.
I have enough to knock your ass off, is that?
You have a sack full of jack after taxes.
For real though, imagine how it would feel going real slow down the highway of life with no regrets and no breaking your neck for respect or a paycheck. For real though, I take a break from the wheel and we'll throw the biggest block party everybody here. It's a weekend where we can breathe, take it easy.
1, 2, 3, what would you do with 96 keys? Oh man, needed it just between you and me. Esa pregunta es tricky. I know 96 keys. I start my life with a brand new read. Atlantic City with a Malibu breeze and a brand new leaf, or maybe just bleach. Y'all are freaks.
96K, go.
If I win the lottery, you'll never see again.
Damn, we only joking. Stay broke then.
I'll be downtown. I'll get a nice studio. I'll get out of the rodeo. If I win the lotto,
Down the highway of life with no regrets and no breaking your neck for respect or a paycheck.
Yo, it's time you ever get me crazy hypothetical. Just said I go so listen to them. And with the 96, I know precisely what I know. Yo, we really only getting 90 round hypothetical. We really know
Now, would anybody like to memorize some words with me? I would not want to even begin to try. No one really understood that this was going to win the Tony Award for Best Musical that year. It did not cross anybody's mind. They thought it was a clever piece. It had started at the Public Theater. It had been expanded. It caught everybody's attention. It won multiple Tonys. Of course, Lin-Manuel Miranda won for writing the words and the music, and of course, it won Best Musical. This was 2009. Now, he's now achieved some recognition, and there's going to be a revival of West Side Story, and Stephen Sondheim thinks there's something special about him. Why not? And he goes to Lin-Manuel Miranda with Arthur Lawrence for this revival of West Side Story, and they decide that what they're going to do is, wait a minute, something just happened. Here you go.
Ese cabrón mató tu hermano. Olvida ese americano. Piensan los tuyos, solo los tuyos.
So you're Stephen Sondheim, and it's being suggested to you that we take your lyrics that you've written and put them into Spanish. They went to Lin-Manuel Miranda to do that. It shows you the trust that someone like Stephen Sondheim would have had in this young guy to convert this to what it becomes. The next thing that happens is Stephen Sondheim is approached to do a revival of Merrily We Roll Along, and Lin-Manuel Miranda actually gets the lead in the City Center production. I happened to see that production, and I was amazed at who was this young guy. Oh, he was the guy from In the Heights. I didn't even know his name. Then, after that, an event happens at the White House.
My God. I'm thrilled the White House called me tonight because I'm actually working on a hip-hop album. It's a concept album about the life of someone I think embodies hip-hop.
Now, I want to stop for a minute. After his time in the Heights, he decides to go on a vacation to Cabo San Lucas. He stops in the bookshop in LaGuardia Airport or whatever, and he sees a book, the Chernow biography of Alexander Hamilton. He picks up the book, reads 100 pages, and he goes, oh my God, this is a musical. I mean, it's hard to imagine. I don't know if any of you have tried to read the book. It's a little dense, but somehow he then reaches out to Ron Chernow. Now, it had been discussed that maybe that book would become a miniseries on HBO. It fell apart. It was then suggested that maybe it would become a full-length motion picture. It fell apart. So when he got the phone call from Lin-Manuel Miranda's agent to see if he could get the rights and a percentage of the ownership if it would become a musical, I always said I would have liked to have been in the room where that phone call happened and just watch his face.
My God. I'm thrilled the White House called me tonight because I'm actually working on a hip-hop album. It's a concept album about the life of someone I think embodies hip-hop, Treasury Secretary Alexander Hamilton. You laugh, but it's true. He was born a penniless orphan in St. Croix of illegitimate birth, became George Washington's right-hand man, became Treasury Secretary, caught beef with every other founding father, and all on the strength of his writing. I think he embodies the word's ability to make a difference. So I'm going to be doing the first song from that tonight. I'm accompanied by Tony and Grammy-winning music director Alex Lacamoire. Anything you need to know, I'll be playing Vice President Aaron Burr, and snap along if you like. How does a bastard orphan son of a whore and a Scotsman, dropped in the middle of a forgotten spot in the Caribbean by providence, impoverished in squalor, grow up to be a hero and a scholar. The $10 founding father without a father got a lot farther by working a lot harder, by being a lot smarter, by being a self-starter. By 14 they had placed him in charge of the trade and charter, and every day while slaves were being slaughtered or carted away across the waves, our Hamilton kept his guard up. Inside he was longing for something to be a part of. The brother was ready to beg, steal, borrow, or barter. Then a hurricane came and devastation reigned, and our man saw his future dripping down the drain. Put a pencil to his temple, connected it to his brain, and he wrote his first refrain, a testament to his pain. Well, the word got around, they said this kid is insane, man. Took up a collection just to send him to the mainland. Get your education, don't forget from whence you came, and the world is gonna know your name. What's your name, man? Alexander Hamilton. His name is Alexander Hamilton, and there's a million things he hasn't done, but just you wait, just you wait. When he was 10, his father split, full of it, debt-ridden. 2 years later, see Alex and his mother bedridden, half dead, sitting in their room, sick, the scent thick, and Alex got better, but his mother went quick. Moved in with a cousin, the cousin committed suicide, left him with nothing but ruined pride, something new inside, a voice saying, Alex, you gotta fend for yourself. He started retreating and reading every treatise on the shelf. There would have been nothing left to do for someone less astute. He would have been dead and destitute without a cent of restitution. Started working, clerking for his late mother's landlord, trading sugar cane and rum and other things he can't afford, scamming for every book he can get his hands on, planning for the future. See him now as he stands on the bow of a ship headed for a new land. In New York you can be a new man. The ship is in the harbor now, see if you can spot him. Another immigrant coming up from the bottom. His enemies destroyed his rep, America forgot him. And me, I'm the damn fool that shot him. Alexander Hamilton, we were waiting in the weeds for you. You could never back down, you always had to speak your mind. But Alexander Hamilton, we could never take your deeds from you. In our cowardice and our shame, we will try to destroy your name. The world will never be.
So you get the idea. Now hold on. We're backing up a minute. Okay. So that evolves. And if you know Hamilton, that is the opening number. It's been stretched out. There's some brilliant songwriting there. You know how all of a sudden you wait for him to go Alexander Hamilton, and then there's a pause. It's brilliant writing because it allows the audience to react. He understood what it was going to take to create audience reaction, and he does this. So let's go back about 5.5 years. The Public Theater now has agreed. The Public Theater is a nonprofit in New York that's launched a chorus line, many other productions in Broadway history, and it's a nonprofit. So they try out an awful lot of new work. Knowing Lin-Manuel Miranda's reputation, where this was going, they agree to produce it. And the Public Theater may seat 500 people if it's full. And it opens in March, and it gets instant recognition. It was going to run 12 weeks, maybe less, and you could not get a seat. Within 5 minutes of it opening, the word spreads around the theater community in New York, and everybody wants to see this new musical called Hamilton. This is an early reaction to that piece as it's playing at the Public Theater.
I'm just like my country, I'm young, scrappy, and hungry, and I'm not throwing away my shot.
Not since the heyday of Phantom of the Opera Miss Saigon, and most importantly, Les Miserables, has there been so much excitement about a new musical. But that's the case with Hamilton, which opened Tuesday night at New York's Public Theater and is going to move to Broadway very, very quickly if the producers involved have their say, and for good reason. This is a sensational show about Alexander Hamilton, probably the least known of America's founding fathers, except for two things. He appears on the $10 bill, and he was shot dead by Aaron Burr in a duel that took place across the river in New Jersey. There was a lot more to Alexander Hamilton than that. Most important, I think, to Miranda, he was an impoverished immigrant orphan, the son of a French woman and a Scotsman, and a completely self-made man. And in telling this story, Lin-Manuel Miranda has brought all the powers of his creative genius as a rapper, as an artist, as a singer and performer, with very deep roots in the strongest Broadway tradition. So there are quotes from Stephen Sondheim, quotes from Richard Rodgers and Oscar Hammerstein. We're gonna rise up, time to take a shot. We're gonna rise up, time to take a shot. There are salutes to Les Mis. You get the fervor of a country in the throes of being born. You have characterizations of King George as a kind of silly bystander as he loses the colonies, and Thomas Jefferson as this sort of dilettante. And mostly you have this self-made Hamilton who is determined to make himself important, make himself a hero, and to have an impact on this new country. The show is nonstop action, nonstop verbal wordplay and song making, as directed by Thomas Kail and choreographed by Andy Blankenbuehler. It's a fast-moving, fast-paced, completely engrossing show that everybody is going to want to see, and everybody's going to be talking about it.
I am not throwing away my shot!
Now, an average musical has 3,000 words. Hamilton has 9,000 words. Now, when Hamilton opened at the Public Theater, it ran 3 hours and 30 minutes. The current Broadway version runs at a little less than 3 hours. They had to get rid of something like 8,000 more words. No, actually, it was really good. It's only about 4,000 more words. Well, they needed to trim it down. They needed to make decisions. I had a very peculiar opportunity. As many of you know, I go to New York and I preview everything for the trips that I'm going to take, and to make sure that I take the people that go with me to see something truly worthwhile. And I went to see another show, and I knew I was going, and that was going to be on Wednesday. I happened to read the New York Times on Monday morning, and there was a story about Hamilton, and I had heard a little bit about it. Didn't quite know what it was yet, and I thought, and the story said it's going to be the next big thing. Well, I guess they got that right. And I immediately went on to Ticketron or whatever it was, and I got the last seat in the 4th row in the corner for the second preview performance that Wednesday night. I had no idea at all what I was going to see. And of course, I was like, I could not believe what had happened.
I am not throwing away my shot. I am not throwing away my shot. And yo, I'm just like my country. I'm young, scrappy, and hungry, and I'm not throwing away my shot.
When Lin-Manuel Miranda sings about the drive of the young, scrappy, and hungry immigrant, he's not singing about just any immigrant.
I am the A-L-E-X-A-N-T-E-R. We are meant to be a colony that runs independently. Meanwhile, Britain keeps on us endlessly.
He's singing about the man on the $10 bill, Alexander Hamilton, the revolutionary, visionary, and youngest of the founding fathers.
This is a guy who, on the strength of his writing, pulled himself from poverty into the revolution that helped create our nation and caught beef with every other founding father. I mean, there's great drama, there's a great love story, there's incredible political intrigue.
Corruption's such an old song that we can sing along in harmony, and nowhere is it stronger than in Albany. There's colonies, economies.
In other words, a life made for the stage.
Practice the law, practically perfected it. I've seen injustice in the world and I've corrected it.
Hamilton, written by and starring Miranda, is a smash off-Broadway at New York's Public Theater and is heading to Broadway this summer.
Talk less,
What?
Smile more. Don't let them know what you're against or what you're for.
It's Hamilton's life and death at the hand of Vice President Aaron Burr, put to music that's as energetic as the man and the times he lived through.
We take it as a given that hip-hop music is the music of the revolution.
The bullets out your gun. The bullets out your gun. We move undercover and we move as one. Through the night we have one shot to live another day. We cannot let a stray gunshot give us away.
Hamilton's unlikely journey to the stage began 6 years ago when Miranda, on vacation, picked up a 700-page Hamilton biography.
By the end of the second chapter, I was on Google saying, someone's already made this into a musical. How can anyone not have made this into a musical?
For Miranda, an urban sound made perfect sense for Hamilton's story.
And now you say you took it as a given that hip-hop would be the musical vernacular of the Founding Fathers.
Yeah.
Is that because of the energy?
It's because of the energy. It's because the hip-hop narrative is of writing your way out of your circumstance. I joked to someone else, I think, all my favorite hip-hop songs are really good musical theater I want songs.
I want to get someplace else.
I want to get somewhere else. I want to get my corner of the sky.
That certainly describes Alexander Hamilton. Born out of wedlock in the Caribbean and abandoned by his father, Hamilton made his way to New York City at 17. Roiling with insecurity about his background, the ferociously ambitious Hamilton overcompensated with a superhuman work ethic. He was just 22 when he served as General Washington's aide-de-camp during the Revolutionary War, and 34 when he became the country's first Secretary of the Treasury.
He was the one who saw the future in a visionary flash. So at a time when Jefferson and Madison see the United States as a country with traditional agriculture and small towns, here comes this young man from the Caribbean. He foresees a country that's going to have banks and stock exchanges, corporations, factories, large cities. In other words, the country that we know today.
Ron Chernow wrote the biography that inspired Miranda.
I think that this is a classic immigrant story in terms of someone recognizing the opportunities in this brand new, turbulent, wide open society.
He's kind of the ultimate immigrant.
He's the ultimate immigrant, and he's the original immigrant. I dare say he made the greatest contribution of any immigrant in the history of the United States.
Monsieur Hamilton. Monsieur Lafayette. In command where you belong. How you say, no sweat. We're finally on the field. We've had quite a run. Immigrants, we get the job done.
Miranda, a Tony winner for his 2008 musical In the Heights, is the son of Puerto Rican immigrants.
Because your parents are immigrants, was that part of what connected you to the story of Hamilton?
Yeah, you know, my father came here the same age as Hamilton. He'd already graduated college by 18, and he came with a full ride for NYU's postdoc psychology program. Didn't speak English, and learned it here while he was studying. And
he learned English while he was getting a postdoc.
Yeah.
That's ambition. That's
ambition.
drive.
That's ambition. I can't begin to aspire to that level of ambition. And writing this story has helped me understand him.
Ladies and gentlemen, you could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us today in New York City. Are you ready for a cabinet meeting? Huh?
If the cast of Hamilton doesn't sound like we imagined the founders sounding, well, it doesn't look like them either.
This is the story of America then, told by America now. It looks like America now.
Philippa Sue plays Hamilton's wife, Eliza Schuyler. Eliza's sister, Angelica, is played by Renee Elise Goldsberry.
My father, I told him that I was doing this, and he was like, who are you playing? And I said, Angelica Schuyler. And then a couple days later, he was like, well, how are you playing Angelica Schuyler? Did a little research, and I'm a little confused.
In the show, the Schuyler sisters sound an awful lot like the R&B group Destiny's Child.
We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. And when I meet Thomas Jefferson, I'ma compel him to include women in the sequel. Work!
Oceans rise.
By contrast, England's King George III has a distinctly British pop sound.
And when push comes to shove, I will send a fully armed battalion to remind you of my love.
I just sort of plundered every idea possible to write a breakup song for King George III to the colonies.
And in the role of Hamilton's lifelong rival, Aaron Burr, Leslie Odom Jr. brings down the house with a good old showstopper. This was a time when the political could get extremely personal. Here's Hamilton, who favored more federal power, debating Thomas Jefferson, who favored states' rights.
Oh, but Hamilton forgets. His plan would have the government assume states' debts. Now place your bets as to who that benefits. The very seat of government where Hamilton sits.
Not true. The rap battles are, I think the country should be like this. You think the country should be like that. And if you win, our country goes to ruin. So the stakes are here.
We assume the debts the union gets, a new line of credit, a financial diuretic. How do you not get it? If we're aggressive and competitive, the union gets a boost. You'd rather give it a sedative?
So it's incredible verbal dexterity that we get to employ.
So it makes perfect sense that Hamilton and Jefferson are arguing about the role of the federal government in the form of a rap smackdown.
60 seconds for Jefferson, 60 seconds for Hamilton. Cabinet response determines the winner. The view from here must have been spectacular. You would have seen both.
Miranda wrote some of the musical at the Morris Jamel Mansion in Upper Manhattan, where George Washington's first cabinet met.
So you would just sit here and write?
Yeah, I would sit here and write. And I'd bring in my computer and bring in my keyboard and I'd doodle around.
Aaron Burr once lived here too. By the time he and Hamilton met on the dueling ground in 1804,
He aims his pistol at the sky! Wait!
their rivalry had hardened into enmity. Hamilton had backed Jefferson over Burr for president in 1800. Once word spread of his death,
I hear wailing in the streets.
Alexander Hamilton was mourned by the young country he helped birth.
History has its eyes on you.
So this was not even yet an open event on Broadway. CBS Sunday Morning decided to do a spot on it, and the show hadn't even begun to resonate. This was done people were getting excited, and I do have to tell you that the producers and Lin-Manuel Miranda, they understood how to reach the audience that they were trying to reach. This became a social media frenzy. Now, I saw it in July, and this was the opening night in August. Musicals don't typically open in the summer because no one's around. But guess what happened?
It's a history-making night here on Broadway. Lin-Manuel Miranda's hip-hop take on the Founding Fathers is opening at the Richard Rodgers Theater. We're here to get in the room where it happens to talk to the stars about Hamilton. Are you ready to party like a Founding Father?
Yeah. I don't know how they party, but I'm ready to learn. I'm very willing.
I'm ready to party like it's 1799.
Take a photo, then you're gonna
Oh, you didn't think I was going to say that?
I'm so excited. I am dear friends with Leslie Odom Jr., who plays Aaron Burr, and I've been waiting for this night for him.
This is the show to be at tonight. You know, they are changing the game when it comes to musical theater and just trailblazing in so many different ways.
How much do you know about Alexander Hamilton?
Well, I read last night that he used to be a president, which I was very impressed by the fact that now I know that.
Well, Alexander Hamilton was our first Secretary of Treasury, and he's responsible for so much of the systems that work economically in this country, and he was a genius.
Okay, he was one of the founding fathers of the United States. He was probably set to be one of our first presidents. He was kind of the polar opposite of Thomas Jefferson at the time.
He died at 49, and he wrote...
You know a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I was working with Lin on a bad TV show when he had only written like 2 songs for this show, so I feel like I was kind of there for the brain seed of it.
But then he decided to get into a duel with Aaron Burr, and things didn't go very well.
Spoiler!
Oh yeah, right. Sorry. No, don't listen to that.
How are your hip-hop skills?
Pretty high. Yeah.
My hip-hop skills are non-existent. I know that I'm a black woman, more R&B head than a hip-hop head.
Hip-hop skills are, you know, I'd like to think they're okay in my house, but probably not for the show like this.
Feel free to show us some freestyle right now.
You know, I'd be afraid if I did that, I'd kind of put the show to shame a little bit. So I'm just going to keep them under wraps out of respect.
Oh, a little bit. Maybe I'm just here at the Richard Rogers Theater. Want to get back because I want to get into the theater to see my brothers Hamilton and Lennon.
I just want to stop this for a minute. James Iglehart, who won the Tony Award for playing the genie in Aladdin, took over as George Washington. He had been with the production, as had Brian Darcy James, who you saw be the king. And because Hamilton took its time to get started, these people had to go on and do other things.
All Jackson, want to get around and see all the funky action. Want to see David Diggs toward the Latella Award. Want to see him get back because I know he is swore to do his best upon the stage like a lion trapped in a cage. And I will be there for the new age, you know.
So are you going to party tonight like a founding father?
I am going to party like a founding grandfather.
How do founding fathers party?
How do they party? We gonna find out. Probably slightly too hard, but also with the knowledge that they got to do the show again tomorrow.
This is, I don't know. I don't have the words. It's once in a lifetime is what this is. This will never happen like this again.
Feels great to be in this room.
Let me tell you something about the actor you just saw. He did the matinees on Sunday for Lin-Manuel Miranda because Lin-Manuel Miranda wanted to take a day off on Sunday to be with his family. Having seen both of them, one of the critics also pointed out that, look, Lin-Manuel Miranda, look, he's who he is and he could do this, but Javier Munoz truly had far more charisma and was far more believable as what the character might be. And I'll also share with you, having seen it in London and a couple other times in New York, other than the fact that Lin-Manuel Miranda is who he is in The Curiosity, I think every single other actor I see had far more sex appeal, which Alexander Hamilton is supposed to have, than Lin does himself. Hey, look, what can I tell you?
Where it's happening. I have been, this has been the finish line for such a long time. And, we have a show tomorrow night. So that will keep me humble. But at the same time, we get to celebrate close to 7 years of hard work.
This show has got so much buzz. Why are people responding this way to it?
I don't know. I feel like the story that we're telling is familiar, but it's Lin, so there's a lot of different energy to it. I think people are feeling things. They're coming to the theater and they're having an experience that allows them to just be open.
It's very refreshing and honest and earnest, and Lin doesn't waste a note or a word. Everything is necessary. Every song is necessary. Every song you want to listen to. Every song progresses the story. It's like really a masterful work of art, and I think that's why people appreciate it. I love the honesty. The honesty. Everyone has so much heart, and it's like if you don't come to the stage with that much heart, you're gonna get left behind.
It's just been amazing, and it's such a testament to the piece that it draws people, all different kinds of people from all different walks of life, come into the theater and are moved by the show, whether you know the history or don't know the history, whether you like rap music or you don't like rap music.
I know that when someone tells me I'm supposed to like something, it just makes it a little harder to receive in a very natural way. But I think Hamilton is surprising. I don't think that you can define it, and so everyone that comes to the show will have their own experience, and they'll be surprised, even if we tell you about it.
How is Lin like Alexander Hamilton?
Ambitious, and will stop at nothing to succeed.
He's nonstop. He's like his desire to make things better and to just discover and keep coming up with stuff is, he's relentless.
Lin kind of laid down the gauntlet with that material. He kind of just put that on the table. That was the smackdown. And everybody just tries to rise to the occasion every night. Just tries to rise to meet that.
I just want you to stop and take a look at this for a minute. Why the set? They wanted this. New York was a port city in this time period, and they wanted it to convey the warehouses that were along the docks. That New York certainly didn't look like anything of Manhattan. That, as we know it, it was residential. It was just an unbelievable combustion of energy at the time. Another thing that happens in Hamilton is a very difficult task for an actor. You'll notice there are always actors on stage. And one of the most difficult things for an actor to do is stand still while the rest of the action is going on. So if your nose itches, you can't do anything because it could upstage what's going on in front of you. Let's take a look at a couple of moments from Hamilton.
The man is loaded, uh-oh, but little does he know that his daughter's Peggy Angelica Eliza sneaking to the city just to watch other guys. It work.
Angelica, Eliza, and Peggy. Angelica, Eliza. Daddy said to be home by sundown. Daddy doesn't need to know. Daddy said not to go downtown. Like I said, you're free to go. But look around, the revolution's happening in New York. New York. It's bad enough that he wants to go to war. People shouting in the square. It's bad enough there'll be violence on our shore. New ideas in the air. Look around. Angelica, remind me what we're looking for.
She's looking for me.
Eliza, I'm looking for a mind at work. I'm looking for a mind at work. I'm looking for a mind at work. Whoa, 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 whoa.
There's nothing like summer in the city. Someone in a rush next to someone looking pretty. Excuse me, miss, I know it's not funny, but your perfume smells like your daddy's got money. While you slumming in the city in your fancy heels, you searching for an urchin who can give you ideals.
Where you disgust me.
So you disgust me. I'm a trust fund, baby, you can trust me.
I've been reading common sense by Thomas Paine. So men say that I'm intense or I'm insane. You want a revolution, I want a revelation. So listen to my declaration. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. And when I meet Thomas Jefferson, I'm gonna compel him to include women in the sequel. Right. Look around, how lucky we are to be alive right now. Look around, how lucky we are to be alive right now. History is happening in Manhattan, and we just happen to be in the greatest city in the world. In the greatest city in the world. Nothing down, it's just for how they let's go.
Now, you wonder, people say to me all the time, how come they don't write things where you can walk out of the theater singing? I want you to know that was one of the 5 pieces from this production, not having ever seen it before, that I walked out with in my head. This is another scene. This is a follow-up invitation to the White House. And if some of you know Ellen Walker, who often comes to some of my lectures, her son actually plays in the combo that Leslie Odom Jr. or Aaron Burr next to Lin-Manuel Miranda's left does nationwide. I don't know what just happened here. We'll try it again.
Hey yo, I'm John Lawrence in the place to be. 2 pints of Sam Adams, but I'm working on 3. Those red coats don't want it with me, cause I will pop, chicka pop, these cops till I'm free.
Oui, oui, mon ami, je m'appelle Lafayette. The Lancelot, the revolutionary set. I came from afar just to say bonsoir to the king, Casse-toi, who is the best? C'est moi.
Brah, brah. I am Hercules Mulligan, up in it, loving it. Yes, I heard your mother say, come again. Lock up your daughters and horses. Of course, it's hard to have intercourse over 4 sets of corsets. Oh, no more sex. Pour me another brew, son. Let's raise a couple more to the revolution. Well, if it ain't the prodigy of Princeton College,
Hey,
Aaron Burr.
give us a verse, drop some knowledge.
Good luck with that. You're taking a stand. You spit, I'ma sit. We'll see where we land.
Burr, the revolution's imminent. What do you stall for?
If you stand for nothing, Burr, what do you fall for?
Oh, who are you?
Who are you?
Who are you? Oh, who is this kid? What's he gonna do?
I am not throwing away my shot. I am not throwing away my shot. Hey, yo, I'm just like my country. I'm young, scrappy, and hungry, and I'm not throwing away my shot. I'm gonna get a scholarship to King's College. I probably shouldn't brag, but dag, I'm amazed and astonished. The problem is I got a lot of brains but no polish. I gotta holler just to be heard with every word. I drop knowledge. I'm a diamond in the rough. A shiny piece of coal, trying to reach my goal. My power of speech, unimpeachable. Only 19, and my mind is older. These New York City streets get colder. I shoulder every burden, every disadvantage. I've learned to manage. I don't have a gun to brandish. I walk these streets famished. The plan is to fan this spark into a flame. But damn, it's getting dark, so let me spell out the name. I am the A-L-E-X-A-N-D-E-R. We are meant to be a colony that runs independently. Meanwhile, Britain keeps shitting on us endlessly. Essentially, they tax us relentlessly. Then King George turns around, runs a spending spree. He ain't ever gonna set his descendants free. So there will be a revolution in this century. And to me,
He says in parentheses.
but don't be shocked when your history book mentions me. I will lay down my life if it sets us free. Eventually, you'll see my ascendancy. And I am not throwing away my shot. I am not throwing.
He also did an awful lot for education with the piece. He wanted students to be able to see Hamilton. So what the producers decided to do was take the first 8 rows of the theater and charge $450 a seat so that they could offer a lottery of $10 a seat for people to then be able to see Hamilton.
This musical has taken Broadway by storm, and its songs have sparked a new interest for students to learn about the American Revolution. Ariel Hickson hit the theater to find out more.
The anticipation was building.
I literally want to die. Like, I am just so overwhelmed and thrilled with excitement to be at this play.
Lines stretched around the block.
I feel really excited. I really want to see this show.
All to see the hottest musical on Broadway.
Okay, now who's excited for Hamilton?
But this performance was special, mainly because of the unique audience, filled with teens and their teachers. Today kicks off the Hamilton Education Initiative, where 20,000 New York City students will get to see Hamilton on Broadway. Now, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to get today's younger generation into the theater. Hamilton's creator, Lin-Manuel Miranda, teamed up with the New York City Department of Education, the Rockefeller Foundation, and the Gilder Lehrman Institute to create a Hamilton-based curriculum for students. With this unique classroom-to-theater experience, students learn about one of our founding fathers, Alexander Hamilton, that guy on the $10 bill who helped write the Constitution and establish America's financial system after the American Revolution. Talk to me about this initiative. Why is it important for New York City schools?
Well, listen, theater changed my life because I was lucky enough to be exposed to it at a very young age. I saw Les Miserables when I was 7 years old, and cut to a few decades later, and we have Hamilton. It exists because I saw Les Mis when I was 7 years old. And this initiative to bring 20,000 11th graders to see the show is really, it's both unprecedented and it's both, and really exciting.
These days, all eyes are on Hamilton because it's like nothing ever seen before on Broadway.
I'm past patiently waiting, I'm passionately smashing it.
If you listen closely, these rap bars can walk you through a few pages in your history book.
First time I'm thinking past tomorrow.
It's taking an old story, an important story, about our founding fathers and making it so relatable.
A way to combine arts with education. And it comes just as many art programs are being cut from schools around the country because of funding problems. Instead, the money is used for programs like math, science, and even sports. But studies show that art and music can actually help students perform better in other subjects.
I think the public school system has neglected the arts a little bit.
Anthony Ramos, one of the stars of Hamilton, went to public school in New York City way before he made his way to Broadway.
I think it's important, especially for students,
to see shows. And, you know, just like they go see, you know, a concert for their favorite artist, I think it is equally as important for students to come to Broadway.
Great Britain's eyes, we are not equal. Already had a war, but it's about to be a sequel.
Students attending Hamilton not only watched the play for only $10 a piece, but got to perform their own Hamilton-inspired skits, followed by a Q&A with the cast, who was very excited about their special audience.
You have no idea how long we've been waiting to see you.
This show's about to be dope.
This is the first of many of these types of performances, with the hopes of eventually expanding across the U.S.
Hopefully, it gives young students a reason to engage a little bit more in American history. I could have used something like that probably at the time. Everything that happens in this play, I learned for the first time doing this play. And I'm in my 30s, so, you know, these are all things that were certainly taught when I was in high school, but I didn't pay any attention because I wasn't interested.
What's also so interesting is that these actors, because they were with this for so long, they went to places to get into their characters and into the history. They went to Monticello. They went to the site of where Washington's battle for Trenton took place. I mean, they didn't just show up one day and go to work. They really researched what they needed to do.
Good evening. 7 years ago, a young man came to a poetry jam that Michelle and I held at the White House.
He took the mic and said that he was going to perform a song from something he was working on about the life of somebody who embodies hip-hop, America's first Treasury Secretary.
I confess, we all laughed, but who's laughing now? 7 years later, Hamilton has become not only a smash hit, but a civics lesson our kids can't get enough of. One with fierce, youthful energy. One where rap is the language of revolution, and hip-hop its urgent soundtrack.
It's a musical about the miracle that is America, a place of citizenship where we debate ideas with passion and conviction.
A place of inclusiveness, where we value our boisterous diversity as a great gift.
A place of opportunity, where no matter how humble our origins, we can make it if we try.
That's the story of America, an experiment that is not yet finished, a project that belongs to all of us.
America is what we, the people, make of it, as long as we stay just like our country, young, scrappy, and hungry.
That's the story of Hamilton, and you get to see it coming up.
Ladies and gentlemen, rapper, actor, and Academy Award-winning composer, Common.
In every art form, there are game changers. Artists whose unique voice and vision have a significant impact on the way we think and create. The next nominee for Best Musical not only changed the game for theater here in New York, it's become a cultural phenomenon.
The day of this presentation was the day after the Orlando shooting in that bar. And they were very sensitive because there were gunshots that were supposed to appear as part of this number. And they decided they could not allow gunshots to be heard at the Tony Award performance. Listen to what, this is a great section of Hamilton.
Lin-Manuel Miranda's ingenious rhymes and contemporary beats have inspired young and old to come to Broadway. Simply put, it's one of the greatest pieces of art ever made. Nominated for a record 16 Tony Awards tonight. Give it up for the company of Hamilton.
The Battle of Yorktown, 1781.
Monsieur Hamilton!
Monsieur Lafayette!
In command where you belong.
Are you saying no sweat? We're finally on the field. We've had quite a run.
Immigrants.
We get the job done. So what happens if we win?
I go back to France. I bring freedom to my people if I'm given the chance.
We'll be with you when you do.
Go lead your men.
I'll see you on the other side.
Till we meet again. Let's go.
I am not going away, my shop. Hey, yo, I'm just like my country. I'm not scrappy and hungry, and I'm not going away, my shop. I am not going away, my shop.
Till the world turns upside down.
Till the world turns upside down.
like a memory. This is where it gets me. On my feet, the enemy ahead of me. If this is the end of me, at least I have a friend with me. Repping with my hands at command and my men with me. Then I remember my Elias is expecting me. Not only that, my Elias is expecting. So we gotta go, gotta get the job done. Gotta start a new nation, gotta meet my son. Take the bullets out your gun, the bullets out your gun. We move undercover and we move as one. Through the night we have one shot to live another day. We cannot let a stray gunshot give us away. We will fight up close, seize the moment and stay in it. It's either that or meet the business end of a bayonet. The code word is Rochambeau, dig me? Rochambeau! You have your orders now, go man, go. So the American experiment begins with my friends all scattered to the winds. Lawrence is in South Carolina, we've defining bravery. We'll never be free until we end slavery. When we finally drive the British away, Lafayette is there waiting in Chesapeake Bay. How did we know that this plan would work? We had a spy on the inside, that's right. Hercules,
Tell a spying on the British government. I take the measurements, information, and then I smuggle it to my brother's revolutionary covenant. I run with the sons of liberty, and I am loving it. See, that's what happens when you up against the ruffians. We in the somebody's gotta shovel it. Hercules mulligan. I need no introduction. When you knock me down, I get the back up again.
An amazing, when you sit in the audience and you watch this, I mean, you just, it is really pretty amazing. Obviously, I hate to keep saying that word.
Following us to revolution.
Okay, so this is Thomas Jefferson. This is the beginning of Act Two. It's very clear Thomas Jefferson has been away. And this is one of those moments that when you see the filmed version of Hamilton, many critics felt it doesn't give you quite the same excitement as when you saw it in the theater, and Jefferson comes off a little softer, which is not the case.
There is no more status quo, but the sun comes up and the world still spins. I helped Lafayette draft the Declaration, then I said I gotta go. Gotta be in Monticello, now the work at home begins. So what did I miss? What did I miss? Virginia, my home sweet home, I wanna give you a kiss. I've been in Paris meeting lots of different ladies. I guess I basically missed the late 80s. I traveled the wide, wide world and came back to this. There's a letter on my desk from the president. Haven't even put my bag down yet. Sally, be a lamb, darling, won't you open it? This is the president's assembling a cabinet, and that I am to be the Secretary of State. Great, and that I'm already Senate approved. I just got home and now I'm headed up to New York. New York, New York. Looking at the rolling fields, I can't believe that we are free. Ready to face whatever's awaiting me in NYC. Who's waiting for me when I step in the place? My friend James Madison, red in the face. He grabs my arm and I respond, what's going on?
That was Jefferson. Now let's take a look at this. So let me back up. Let me just stop this for 1 second. Aaron Burr, there's a meeting with Madison and Jefferson and Hamilton where they negotiate the treasury system and what it's going to look like. And part of the negotiation is where Washington will sit to become the capital of the new union. Aaron Burr is left out of the meeting. And this is like one of the great big moments of the show.
Be in the room where it happens, the room where it happens. I wanna be in the room where it happens, the room where it happens. I wanna be in the room where it happens. I wanna be in the room. Close your eyes. We want our leaders to stay. Yeah. We
saying what they trade away. We dream of a brand new start.
But we dream in the dark for the most part.
Dark as a tomb where it happens. I've got to be in the room. I've got to be. I've got to be. I've got to be in the room. I gotta be, I'll never be. Click, boom.
It's truly magnetic. And, you know, it's interesting how language creeps into our own, you know, what we're going to talk about.
Hamilton the musical has finally arrived on Disney Plus, bringing the much-loved cultural phenomenon right into our homes in glorious HD. And packed into the revolutionary stage production are tons of incredible details that even some ardent Hamill fans may have missed. Yippee-ki-yay, movie lovers, I'm Jan, and in this video I'm revealing 22 crucial things that will make you love the Hamilton movie even more. Jonathan Groff's deliciously fun performance of King George's breakup song You'll Be Back is a great comic moment. And the British monarch's very particular walk when he first arrives on stage has a curious origin which Groff attributes to the incredibly heavy crown he initially had to wear in the role. Adding to the difficulty of his stage entrance was that Groff had to balance the weighty headpiece while advancing forward in heels, one foot in front of the other, as if walking on a tightrope, all while wearing an incredibly thick and heavy royal gown. The song's cheery sensibility and musical style, which is a clever hat tip to the Beatles and the 60s British invasion, deliberately contrasts with the rest of the musical to show how King George is intruding on events. The song also squeezes in some neat references to both the Boston Tea Party and the King's future mental illness. And funnily enough, the track's inspiration came from British actor Hugh Laurie, who Lin-Manuel Miranda worked with previously. When Miranda explained he was writing a breakup letter from King George to the colonies, Laurie wagged his finger and said, "Ah, you'll be back." A detail that many fans didn't miss in the Hamill film is the profuse amount of spit that emerges from King George as he threatens his ex-colonial subjects.
And now, don't change the subject.
Now, some might have thought it was a nod to the King's insanity later in life, but it's actually because Jonathan Groff is a spitter whenever he performs on Broadway. In an interview with Variety, Groff explained, "I've always been a spitter. I start sweating. I just get wet when I perform on stage. It's just what happens." Interestingly, when this production of Hamilton was filmed back in June 2016, Groff was no longer playing King George. So Rory O'Malley, the actor who'd taken over the role, very nobly stood down so Groff could temporarily reign once more, and the film crew could capture the magic of the original Broadway cast together again. And that's why you'll see O'Malley's name pop up in the special thanks during the movie's credits. Satisfied is one of the musical's most popular numbers, in particular thanks to Renee Elise Goldsberry's breathtaking delivery of some incredibly fast lines.
So this is what it feels like to match with someone at your level. What the hell is the catch?
And the innovative way the song pauses time, then rewinds, is also a perfect setup for time stopping later in the show when Aaron Burr fires his gun in his duel with Hamilton. But one of the most intriguing things about watching the Hamill film versus seeing the show live in the theatre is that the way the movie is shot and edited creates a different experience. When editing Satisfied for the movie, director Thomas Kail revealed they could be more subjective with the camera, so it feels like we're going inside Angelica's brain. The cut pattern is quite accelerated and the camera angles are quite varied. So for me, watching at home, what this does is that it creates a real sense of the confusion Angelica feels as she deals with her conflicting emotions. Kail also added that this cinematic technique of rapidly cutting between different perspectives is similar to how the song breaks the form of the theatrical language in the theatre. By the way, the movie's edited with footage from recordings of 2 live performances together with a third day when the cast was filmed in an empty theatre to get all those great close-up shots. Oh, and if you watch very closely, you may spot the odd tiny continuity error. For example, in Satisfied, the flowers on Angelica's dress are sometimes present, while other times they just disappear as the film switches between footage from different days. A sweet reminder that Hamilton was made by human geniuses and not robots. Hamilton isn't just a musical about a revolution, its musical style is also revolutionary in terms of musical theatre because it packs such an incredible number of words into its 2.5-hour story. Right?
I want to get
the President-elect of the United States.
Hamilton has created its own controversy, and you know there's been an awful lot about it. And I think you may remember this from 2016, but this was as it appeared on the news. Of course, I'm trying to be neutral.
States of America is in a Twitter fight with the cast of the Broadway musical Hamilton. Why, you ask? It all started Friday night when Vice President-elect Mike Pence went on to see the show. Yep, you heard the boos there, a mix of claps and boos, in fact, for the Vice President-elect. That was during the curtain call. Brandon Victor Dixon, the actor portraying Aaron Burr, delivered a message to Pence. It was a plea for tolerance.
You know, we had a guest in the audience this evening. And Vice President-elect Pence, I see you walking out, but I hope you will hear us just a few more moments. There's nothing to move here, ladies and gentlemen. There's nothing to move here. We're all here sharing a story of love. We have a message for you, sir, and we hope that you will hear us out. And I encourage everybody to pull out your phones and tweet and post, because this message needs to be spread far and wide, okay? Vice President-elect Pence, we welcome you, and we truly thank you for joining us here at Hamilton, an American Musical. We really do. We, sir, we are the diverse America who are alarmed and anxious that your new administration will not protect us, our planet, our children, our parents, or defend us and uphold our inalienable rights, sir. But we truly hope that this show has inspired you to uphold our American values and to work on behalf of all of us. All of us. Again, we truly thank you for sharing this show, this wonderful American story told by a diverse group of men, women of different colors, creeds, and orientations.
So apparently Pence didn't stick around. He left the theater as Dixon began his speech, so it's unclear whether he even heard the plea. But after the theater cleared out, Dixon spoke to reporters about why he and the cast decided to address Pence.
You know, everybody kind of thought about what it meant, considering our...
Well, we all know why, but let's kind of talk about, in wrapping up, who makes what. The public theater gets 1% of the adjusted box office gross. Lin-Manuel Miranda gets roughly 7%, or about $105,000 a week, just from the New York production, and that is multiplied again by the now 3 road companies that, were we not in the pandemic and everything shut down, would be paying him as well. He then pays Ron Chernow out of that. Miranda also gets paid 18.5% of weekly profit, so he would then see about a total of $160,000 a week. After the royalties are paid, the remainder goes to the investors. And the show was capitalized at $12 million, and it was recouped and totally handled by 2016. Miranda also recoups 3% of the net profit above those figures, and the rest then goes to the producers. But that doesn't include the cast recording or the $70 million that Disney Plus paid to run the show. So what I'd love to do now is open up for questions. I see some people may want to raise hands or whatever. If you want to ask me something, kind of raise your hand and then we'll go from there, I guess is the easiest way. Or send me a text and I can see that happening as we go. Anybody want to ask anything? No? I hope this gave you some perspective. Oh, I see. Stanley, go ahead. Let me unmute you. Go ahead. Hold on. Stanley, go ahead. Unmute yourself. Stanley, unmute yourself. Okay, go ahead.
Any idea who the largest investor or investors in the show were, or is that public, or is that private knowledge?
It's a group that, you know, the way it happens is I'm a producer and I buy in to a share. So let's say my share was $2.5 million. I can sell that to whoever I want. So I can give the $2.5 million That's my commitment. So maybe I put in $500,000 and I sell the rest of my share. There are a great number of people. The public theater was one small group, but the $12 million really was not a lot of money relative to what Broadway shows cost. And part of the reason is they weren't paying any names. Another thing that Lin-Manuel Miranda did, and this is really important, which makes me feel good, and this goes back to a chorus line. When a chorus line was created by Michael Bennett, he didn't tell the people what his aim was in the having them sign away their stories for $1. He never told them he was writing a musical. And they sued Michael Bennett for a piece of a chorus line, which they won. Lin-Manuel Miranda went to the producers and said, there are 14 people who have been with me over the 7 years of the production of this. I mean, you saw several of them from In the Heights, and you saw many more of them, like Leslie Odom Jr. and Daveed Diggs and some of these other people actually had been with the gestation since the beginning. They took a percentage and awarded it to these people because of their ongoing commitment to the production over all these years, where they actually have ownership. And they say over time, this will probably give them somewhere between $50,000 and $75,000 a year for the rest of their lives. And that was something Lin-Manuel Miranda truly wanted to create. Another thing that happened, which is kind of interesting, is how he took Hamilton to Puerto Rico to help relief. So he's very, very philanthropic with what he does. There is a local family whose son did a lot of the electronic music pieces for that. Their last name is Cohen. You may know them. They live over in Potomac. And the stories about him, look, he knows what he wants to do, and don't kid yourself, he's pretty focused at it, but I don't think he's forgotten where he comes from. He lives in Inwood to this day. He bought himself a penthouse overlooking the river, and he rides the subway still. So, I don't think he's a bad guy on any stretch of the imagination. Anybody want to know anything else, or, has it been fun?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Okay. Yeah, I hope so. I mean, I wanted to find interesting things for you all and, give you some insight in a way that maybe you hadn't determined before. I really want to thank Shelley for putting this together. It was an idea she had, and I was only too happy to do it. And I see Phyllis and Mark have asked a question, so I'm going to read it. But I can't see the question, so you're muted. Okay, let me try to find you. Let me see if I can find Phyllis and Mark. Hold on.
There we go.
Okay, go ahead.
Too hard to type. You
Go ahead.
mentioned, and I think we computed like about 4,000 words were cut out of the show.
Correct.
I don't know if you saw it pre-cut or post-cut.
I saw it. I know they had already taken some out because when I saw it, it was over 3 hours, but not 3.5 hours. I saw the first or second preview, and I know that over previews they took out 20 minutes. So I don't know what I saw or didn't see.
But so do we have any idea what was cut? Like any great?
Yes, there was. There was a third cabinet meeting talking about slavery, and one of the recent issues has been that some people felt that there's not enough about slavery and how complicated an issue that was. And you actually heard in the clip where they talked about slavery being eliminated, but that had another place. So there was one more cabinet meeting or two more cabinet meetings. There was also, I'm trying to remember what else. There were some other things that were cut. But, look, it's just storytelling. And, they also, one of the things, too, you whitewash things. They say it's 90% historically accurate, that it's not like Fiorello where they reinvented the whole character, or how Tevye suddenly becomes a nice guy in Fiddler on the Roof. If you read the Tevye stories, he's not a good guy. So, you're seeing a portrayal of Alexander Hamilton that is pretty realistic. He had an abrasive personality. And this is what he did. I'm asking something. No one asked me to do this, but I'm doing this because I think you all enjoyed this. You know, they're trying to provide as many programs as they can. And Shelley didn't ask me. I'm just doing this for me. If you can donate something to adult education at the Temple, boy, they can really use it. And they're trying to do so much. And, you know, we all have our own pressures right now, but boy, they could really benefit from that to keep offering programs for everybody. And, you know, if you think about it, it would be great.
Thanks, Steve.
Yeah, I really, you know, I'm going to tell you, you know, I think I've been doing this now at the Temple for 5 years, maybe. So it means a lot to me. It's been life-changing for me in a lot of personal ways. And I've met a lot of people at the Temple who've become friends. And I really love the fact that I'm able to participate and be a part of the community. So, you know, this really felt good to do tonight. Thank you all for being here. Is there anything anybody else? Oh, my pleasure. If there's anything anybody else wants to know, email me or text me, and it'd be my pleasure to do that. And thank you all for being here. And Shelley, is there anything you want to add?
I just want to add my thanks on behalf of the 50 some odd people who were on the screen tonight, and also to say it would be our greatest wish to be able to get back on the bus and go with you to New York to see a show someday soon.
Please, God, one day.
Right.
Thanks, everybody. All right,
night,
talk to you all soon. Take care. Bye-bye.